It was my daughter's birthday, and all she wanted was a trip to the amusement park. As we arrived, and I headed towards the ticket booth, my wife, Clara, and our daughter, Maya, strolled right past me and through the gates without a second glance. I was still reaching for my wallet when Clara's voice, dripping with theatrical sarcasm, cut through the noise of the crowd. "I give you money every month, Leo," she yelled for everyone to hear. "Can't you learn how to budget? Look at you now, you can't even afford a single ticket." And just to make the moment more painful, Maya chimed in, her voice a shrill echo of her mother's. "Mom, you're way too nice to him. He doesn't do anything at home and has no idea how hard you work to make money." I quickly checked my bank balance on my phone. $32. A wave of embarrassment, shame, and pure anger slammed into me all at once. My hands started to shake. I give them $1,500 a month to support the entire household, and this is what I get in return? These random, malicious jabs designed to humiliate me. I was done. I was so completely done with these ungrateful people. The day had started on a sour note. Maya had been clamoring for this birthday trip for weeks, so I wanted to look presentable. I dug through my wardrobe and found a shirt I hadn't worn in 4 years, hoping to replace my usual faded t-shirt. It was snug, and I had to take a few deep breaths just to get the buttons to close over my stomach. Clara had watched me struggle, a smirk playing on her lips. "Old man trying to look young, huh?" she'd said, then shot a knowing look at Maya. "Look at your dad, sweetie, trying to tame that beer belly for a day out." I felt a familiar surge of irritation. Clara barely lifted a finger at home. After work, she was the queen of the couch, leaving a trail of mess in her wake. Maya was unfortunately following in her mother's footsteps, treating our home like her personal dumping ground. It felt like I was taking care of 2 overgrown children, so who had the time or energy to worry about their own figure? Just as I was about to retort, Maya jumped in. "That's not true!" For a brief, hopeful moment, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Maybe she did understand. Maybe all the years I'd dedicated to raising her hadn't been a complete waste. But her next words landed like a punch to the gut. "Dad's belly looks like a giant watermelon, and it's all greasy and gross." I stood there, stunned, the words catching in my throat as my eyes started to well up. This was how my daughter, the person I had sacrificed my career and my own life for, chose to speak to me. I couldn't hold back the hurt in my voice. "Maya, who taught you to say things like that? How could you talk to your father that way?" For a split second, a flicker of guilt crossed her face, but Clara immediately swooped in, pulling Maya behind her like a protective hen. "Oh, come on, Leo," she snapped. "Are you really going to start a fight with a child? Besides, isn't it true? Look at you, a greasy middle-aged man crying like a teenager. Are you really going to ruin Maya's birthday over this?" With those parting words, they stormed out of the house, leaving me clenching my fists, my knuckles white. Clara had pursued me for 2 years in college, promising she would treat me like a prince for the rest of our lives. Now, at just 32, I was a greasy old man in her eyes. But her words stung less than the realization that Maya was my daughter, my little girl. I didn't want to ruin her birthday or make a scene. I took a deep, shuddering breath, pulled myself together, and followed them out the door. On the way to the park, they walked hand in hand, a few paces ahead of me, their laughter and chatter intentionally excluding me from their world. When we got to the entrance, they got in the queue, and somehow a gap of 5 or 6 people formed between us. The line moved quickly. They scanned their e-tickets from Clara's phone and walked right in. When it was my turn, I realized Clara still hadn't sent my ticket to my phone. "Clara!" I yelled, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. She glanced back, saw me, and then deliberately ignored me, rushing Maya further into the park. The line came to a halt with me at the front, and the people behind me started to grumble impatiently. Panicked, I fumbled with my phone to buy a ticket online, but the screen flashed my balance. $32. Clara hadn't transferred my monthly allowance yet. I couldn't afford the ticket. The murmurs of complaint behind me grew louder, and my face burned with shame. Just as I was about to give up and leave the line, Clara circled back, her voice loud and mocking. "I give you so much money every month, and you can't even save enough for one ticket? You're just holding everyone up." She impatiently scanned a barcode on her phone to let me in. "People are waiting, Leo. When are you going to grow up?" And Maya, not wanting to be left out of the public shaming, added, "Mom, you're too good to him. He never does anything at home and doesn't understand how hard you work." They had nailed me to their imaginary cross, and I stood there trembling with an anger so pure it felt like fire. They had planned this. They had set this up to deliberately embarrass me, to make me look like a pathetic fool in public. Their smug, malicious expressions reflected their true nature, and it was ugly. I mumbled an apology to the people in line behind me and walked away. I was done with these cruel, heartless people. Back at home, I broke down. I sat on the living room floor and cried, wondering how my life had spiraled into this mess. I used to be popular in college, full of potential, until I was enchanted by Clara's sweet words and promises. Right after we got married, she treated me like gold, but everything shifted the moment I quit my job to take care of our family. That's when she started looking down on me. After Maya was born, her father always had some excuse not to help with the baby, and Clara claimed her job was too demanding for her to pitch in. I had gambled away my career, believing her when she pleaded with me, and ended up trapping myself in a gilded cage. Before I quit, I held a higher position and earned a larger salary than she did. It was a combination of practical reasons and her constant begging that led to my decision. Now I dealt with the daily chaos of a household while she ascended in her career. Clara's true colors really came out after I became a stay-at-home dad. She would leave her things scattered everywhere, relaxing with her feet up on the coffee table while I cooked dinner. Maya could be wailing in the next room, and Clara wouldn't move a muscle unless the noise disturbed her TV show. Only then would she yell for me to handle it. In her mind, her job gave her a license to belittle me whenever she saw fit. She would cut off my allowance at the slightest hint of dissatisfaction on my part. When Maya finally grew out of her toddler phase and became more self-sufficient, Clara and her father started taking all the credit. For years now, my father-in-law has been living with us, spoiling Maya to the point where she's become entitled and disrespectful. Clara played her part too, using money as a tool, buying Maya every toy imaginable to keep her happy. I tried to set healthy boundaries. No junk food, limited screen time, but they would sneak her sweets and electronics behind my back. I spent years instilling good habits, and in a few short months, my father-in-law and Clara unraveled all of it. I was cast as the villain in my own home, gaining nothing but resentment from my efforts. It wasn't hard to connect the dots and see that Maya's current attitude was a direct result of their influence. The frustration felt like a physical weight, a massive wave of helplessness washing over me. All my hard work, all my sacrifices, undone by their selfish indulgence. Looking at my puffy, red-rimmed eyes in the bathroom mirror, I felt a new resolve harden within me. I clenched my fists. I had to show these heartless people that they were dead wrong about me. After being a stay-at-home dad for 7 years, my resume had a gaping hole that made finding a job nearly impossible. I was practically broke, dependent on our joint assets, but Clara controlled all the accounts. As I looked around the house, I saw value everywhere. Clara's collection of designer bags and shoes, Maya's expensive Lego sets and tablet. I started taking pictures of everything and posted them for sale online. Seeing their piles of expensive junk just fueled my anger. Clara gave me a paltry $1,500 a month to manage all our family's needs, an amount that was barely enough to scrape by. I had to constantly cut back on my own expenses just to make ends meet, while they spent lavishly on themselves. Finally, I went into her jewelry box and took a handful of expensive pieces to a luxury pawn shop. I walked out with $30,000 in cash, a weight lifting from my shoulders. The aroma from a nearby hot pot restaurant made my mouth water. I realized how long it had been since I'd eaten out, since I'd treated myself to anything at all. I decided to indulge. The tender beef balls burst with savory juice in my mouth, and the thin slices of mutton cooked instantly in the rich, bubbling broth. It was heaven. Just as I was savoring the meal, I heard the familiar tune of the Happy Birthday song from a nearby table. "Wave goodbye to all troubles and say hi to all the joy," they sang. I paused, craning my neck to see. It was Maya, her eyes closed tightly as she made a wish over a small cake. To her left was Clara, and to her right was a young, handsome man I recognized as Mark, someone I'd seen in a company event photo with Clara. He looked vibrant and happy, playfully making a peace sign over Clara's head for a picture. Maya sat up straight and blew out the single candle. Mark playfully pinched her cheek. "What did you wish for, darling? You looked so serious." Maya, with a cheerfulness she never showed me, beamed at him. "I wished for you to be my new daddy, Mark." Clara gently patted her head, a look of smug satisfaction on her face. Mark feigned surprise, placing a hand over his mouth. "And what about your old dad?" Maya puffed out her chest and declared in a matter-of-fact tone, "Grandpa says that old greasy guy is too fat and old for Mom. They're going to ditch him soon." I never dreamed my own daughter could say something so cruel. I thought back to all the times I had cared for her. The time Clara and her father gave Maya ice cream behind my back, and she got so sick that I was the one who stayed with her all night at the hospital. The time they made her laugh while she was eating, and she started choking, and I was the one who performed the Heimlich maneuver and saved her. These incidents weren't from years ago. They were recent. Maya was old enough to understand. Yet every single time she sided with them. The realization felt like a knife twisting in my heart. The ungratefulness ran deep in their genes. This marriage had to end. The food in front of me suddenly tasted like ash. I paid my bill and left, my mind racing. I stopped at an electronics store and bought several mini spy cameras. It was time to gather the evidence I needed. When I got back home, they were already there, lounging on the couch surrounded by snack wrappers. The house was a mess. Clara barely glanced up as I walked in. "So, some people still know how to come back, huh?" she said, her voice laced with disdain. "Acting all high and mighty, wasting one of my tickets. If you're so capable, why not just stay out for good?" A switch flipped inside me. Rage flared hot and fast. I slammed the door shut with all my might. "You wish I'd never come back, don't you? Makes it easier for you to replace me, right?" Hearing my raised voice, Maya came running at me, brandishing a plastic doll. "You don't make any money. Why are you yelling at Mom? I'll beat you, beat you!" She started hitting my legs with the doll. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, trying to find a trace of the love I once had for her. There was nothing. I opened my eyes and slapped her across the face, twice. The sound echoed in the silent room. Maya stood there, stunned into silence. Clara leaped to her feet, her face contorted in fury. "Leo, you lunatic! You hit a child! She's right, you're living off me. Without my money, you'd be nothing." I snatched the doll from Maya's hand and hurled it at Clara's head. "Say one more word, and I swear I'll tear that mouth off your face." The plastic toy hit her square on the forehead. I didn't wait for her reaction. I retreated to our bedroom and locked the door. I knew I couldn't win a physical fight with her. Once the door was shut, I could hear Maya's wailing and Clara's high-pitched shrieking. For the first time in a long time, the tension inside me eased. A few minutes later, she started kicking at the door. "Leo, you can forget about this month's money. Let's see how long you can act tough now." This was her favorite tactic. She often delayed transferring the money, enjoying the power it gave her, enjoying making me grovel for it later. Her lectures were always the same. "I work so hard, can't you be more frugal?" I used to stay quiet, hoping she'd eventually understand my position, but my silence was always met with more cruelty. "Oh, sure, you have the hardest job in the world. Since you're so awesome, I bet you don't need my measly little contribution. After all, this place belongs to both of us. I'm not the only one who should be paying for everything. You can handle it yourself." Back then, I put up with it all for Maya's sake. Now I didn't care anymore. The next morning, my internal clock woke me up at my usual time on Monday. For years, I had gotten up early, rushing around like a madman to make breakfast for my two rascals, nagging Maya to get washed and dressed, and then driving her to school. I couldn't fall back asleep, so I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. The morning air was crisp and fresh. The streets were nearly empty and birds were chirping in the trees. I realized that my life had been so bogged down by mundane domestic duties that I had forgotten what it felt like to just exist. Once you step away from the chaos, it's a completely different world. I returned home over an hour later. The sound of the front door opening woke Clara, who had slept in the spare room. "Damn it!" she screamed, rushing out of the room with her hair in a tangled mess. "Leo, why didn't you wake me up?" I looked at her disheveled appearance and the faint bruise on her forehead from the doll, trying my best to hold back a laugh. I rolled my eyes. "Don't you have hands? Can't you set an alarm for yourself?" Clara was so angry she was gritting her teeth. But she was running out of time. She grumbled at me while frantically searching for her work clothes in the master bedroom. "The boss is coming to inspect the office today. I'm on duty. If I'm late, you're dead." I just watched the show, my arms crossed. "It's not in the closet," I said calmly, as she stormed out of the bedroom, looking like she was about to lose her mind. She glared at me and snapped, "Where did you put my clothes? I'm out of time." I replied slowly, "You tossed them somewhere and now you're blaming me?" Finally, her eyes landed on two wrinkled outfits crumpled on the couch. She was livid. Pointing a trembling finger at me, she shrieked, "You didn't wash or iron them! You know I have to wear a uniform today! Leo, you're done for!" I flicked her hand away. "You want free labor without spending a dime?" "Dream on," I said, adding, "You should probably figure out which is worse, going to work without your uniform or wearing a smelly one. Looks like you're the one who's done for, Clara." Even sleepyhead Maya was woken by the commotion. She rubbed her eyes and came out of her room, looking grumpy. "Dad, why are you fighting with Mom again? I'm the flag bearer at school today. Hurry up and make breakfast, then take me to school." Usually I'd have to coax her to eat, preparing different dishes just to ensure she got some nutrition. But now, I just looked at her coldly. "Go eat dirt. If you want to get to school, ask your mom to take you." Maya's eyes widened in shock, and she instinctively looked to her mother for help, but Clara was frantically trying to air out her smelly uniform with a handheld fan, completely ignoring her. Since I didn't have a job, I had the freedom to leave again. On my way downstairs, I called Maya's teacher. "From now on, please contact Maya's mother for any school-related matters. Her number is—" I gave her Clara's number. "Oh, and Maya will be late today, so you should probably appoint another student to raise the flag." I knew, even with my little toe, that Clara would prioritize her own crisis over Maya's school ceremony. But the flag raising was important to Maya, and I couldn't let them ruin it completely. While sipping coffee at a cafe, I turned on the feed from the home camera I had set up before they woke up. Clara was getting ready to leave. Maya was clinging to her leg, sobbing. Clara tried calling my phone, but I had already blocked her number. Furious, she slammed the front door shut in Maya's face. "Mom has something important to do. After I'm finished, I'll come get you." Maya was still crying. "But if I'm late, I won't be the flag bearer." Clara's patience had run out. She shoved Maya aside. "Blame your greasy dad for not taking you. You just sit here and wait. He cares so much about your schooling, he'll be back for you." As the door slammed shut, I couldn't help but chuckle. Some mother she was. I didn't go home for the rest of the day. I was already planning to rent my own place. I'd spent the morning thinking through my strengths and weaknesses. Honestly, the tension between Clara, her father, and me had been simmering long before Maya's birthday. I'd started applying for jobs a while back, but with a 7-year gap in my work experience, my resume was just disappearing into a digital void. So I decided to leave the traditional workforce and forge a new path. One of my best skills has always been my dexterity. Back in college, I used to craft leather goods for myself and my friends. After Maya was born, I made her little shoes and other trinkets. Her kindergarten craft projects, which I always helped with, consistently won first place. For the sake of Maya's upbringing, I had joined several online parenting groups. Whenever I shared photos of my crafts in those groups, people would praise them. It was my one small source of pride in an otherwise monotonous domestic life. I posted in one of the groups that I was considering taking custom orders, and soon enough, a handful of parents reached out. With things being so chaotic at home and a divorce on the horizon, I knew I needed my own space to work in peace. As I searched for apartments, I occasionally checked the camera feed. Maya was clearly starving, pacing around the kitchen, but there were no snacks left. Who cares? I was only keeping an eye on her to make sure she wasn't in any immediate danger. Being hungry for a day wouldn't kill her. After I put down a deposit on a rental and had dinner out, I slowly strolled back to the house. I was stuffed and feeling content. I inserted my key into the lock, only to find it had been bolted from the inside. I checked the camera feed on my phone and saw my father-in-law, Clara, and Maya waiting on the other side, ready to ambush me. Without a moment's hesitation, I turned to leave. That seemed to worry my father-in-law, because he quickly unbolted the door and shouted after me, "Leo, what are you doing? Running off to see your lover!" I turned and looked into his harsh, judgmental eyes. I used to respect him as an elder, always treating him with politeness. Not anymore. "Dad," I shot back, "weren't you the one who just locked me out? I thought maybe there was something scandalous going on inside that you didn't want me to see. You're not a young man anymore. Why are you always talking about wild women and have your mind filled with such thoughts? I'm worried you won't be able to handle it physically." Hearing this, my father-in-law clutched his chest and feigned a collapse. Clara rushed to support him, scolding me. "How could you say that? If something happens to Dad because of you, I swear I'll divorce you right away. Get in here and apologize to him now." I remembered that someone had already bought some of the items I listed online, and I needed to ship them. So I walked inside. My father-in-law, seeming to think Clara's empty threat had worked on me, immediately perked up once I was through the door. He launched into a lecture. "Leo, do you even deserve to be a father? My granddaughter was hungry all day. Go cook something now. And this house is a disaster. Are you blind? Don't you dare eat after you cook. Just clean it all up." Maya was hiding behind him, trying to kick me, but I shot her a sharp look. The memory of last night's slap and the day of hunger seemed to convince her that crossing me was a bad idea, and she backed off. I reluctantly turned my focus back to her grandfather. I smiled and held out my hand. "Pay up. The market rate for a live-in housekeeper is about $1,000 a month, groceries not included." Clara was furious. "You must be crazy. $1,000 for doing some chores? Who do you think you are?" Even her father was jumping in. "My daughter married you to take care of the family. It's a husband's duty to support everyone. What is this nonsense? I lazily cleaned out my ear with my pinky finger. I've already eaten. You guys can do whatever you want. You messed up the house, so it's not my problem. If you don't like it, you can clean it. I'm not lifting a finger. With that, I strode back to my room and locked the door. I heard some rustling outside, and then Clara shouted, "Dad, honey, I'm taking you out to eat. Let's see how long he can act tough when he's broke." I finally saw their strategy clearly. They only had two weapons to use against me, a manufactured sense of duty and the money for living expenses. But now I didn't care about either. What could they possibly do to me? While they were out, I packed up the items I'd sold and happily shipped them off, calculating that I'd just earned another couple of $1,000. Just then, the moving service I had called arrived. I left a short note on the kitchen counter, took my workbench, our essential household appliances, and my personal belongings, and moved everything to my new rental. Did they really think they could push me around forever? No way. I could only imagine their shock when they came back, full from dinner, to find half the house empty. When they saw my note, my father-in-law apparently slumped to the ground, moaning about how unfortunate his family was to have such a shameless son-in-law. Clara, furious, called me. "Leo, you've crossed the line. You dared to move our stuff? Bring it back right now." I calmly replied, "No way." Seeing that I wouldn't budge, she started threatening and insulting me. "Don't think I'm joking, Leo. If I really divorce you, who's going to want you? A man in his 30s with a kid and no job?" She knew how to hit a guy where it hurt. But come on. I'm 6 feet tall and weigh about 180 pounds. Maybe a bit chubby, but definitely not greasy. She was trying to manipulate me, so why should I hold back? "So you think my performance in bed is bad because of me? Funny. When your dad was blaming me for us not having a kid, why didn't you stand up for me then? I went through so much to help you have Maya. You should be grateful. And now you dare to criticize me? That's nonsense." "I've recovered and," Clara blurted out, then quickly stopped herself. "Or what?" I pressed. "Looks like things are moving along with Mark, huh?" It was an interesting slip. She drank heavily at social events and pulled all-nighters binge-watching shows. Her health was worse now than it was in her 20s. There was no way she could conceive naturally. But some women just have that unearned confidence. Maya didn't hear what I said, but she saw her mom's expression darken and shouted into the phone, "Dad's a thief! He stole the couch, the fridge, the washing machine, and the air conditioner. I'm going to call the police." I laughed. "Clara, your daughter might not know who bought those things, but you do. I only took my premarital property. Why don't you let her know that? Oh, and by the way, I agree to the divorce. I'll have the papers sent to you soon." I hung up before she could say another word. Those big items didn't really matter. What would really hit them was the lack of essentials. Soon, they realized the seriousness of the situation. Want to use your phone? No Wi-Fi router? Want to take a shower? No soap or shampoo? Want to use the bathroom? No toilet paper. The nearby stores were all closed for the night. They could hold a lot of things in, but not that, especially after stuffing themselves at dinner. Finally, fuming, they packed a bag and went to a hotel. The next day, after I had set up my new place, my father-in-law arrived back at the old house, struggling with a large bag of supplies. I watched on the camera feed as he eagerly dialed a number. "I took Maya to preschool and bought some things. I'm exhausted. I can't do this. You need to get that boy back here." "What? He's not answering his phone? Does he expect me to do all the housework? You ungrateful daughter. I raised you, and now in my old age I have to put up with this. That punk Leo. When I see him, I swear I'll break his legs." Whatever Clara said next made him finally smile. "Fine. I'll clean up a bit and buy some groceries. You bring him over tonight." It's actually a good thing he's not around. It frees up space for our family of 5. It looked like Clara couldn't wait any longer and was bringing Mark to their little love nest that very day. They were practically handing me the evidence I needed. I started to view them less as family and more as virtual pets I was observing. There were no more emotional swings, just cold calculation. I exited the surveillance feed and turned to my leather materials, focusing on my craft. I was absorbed, finding peace in doing what I loved. I ordered simple takeout for lunch and then dove right back in. After finishing 2 custom wallets, I stretched and realized it was already getting dark. I checked the video feed again. Clara and the whole gang, including Mark, were having dinner. My father-in-law, who never had a good word to say about me, was smiling like a flower, constantly piling food onto Mark's plate. Maya was hanging onto Mark's arm, saying sweetly, "Mark, you're so handsome. I really like you. Not like that greasy uncle. He's fat, ugly, mean, and controlling. It's so embarrassing to think he's my dad. You should hurry up and marry Mom." The dinner felt more like a tribunal against me, with Clara and her father listing all my supposed faults, as if talking badly about me would somehow justify her cheating. After dinner, my father-in-law, who wouldn't even lift a finger when I was around, briskly washed the dishes and took Maya out for a walk, giving Clara and Mark some time alone. The moment they were gone, Mark dropped his polite act. He pouted and said, "Your dad and daughter being around all the time is such a hassle. When we get married, you need to send them back to the countryside. I don't want to feel cramped with them here. And yeah, even though you make 40 grand a month, we'll only give them 1,000 each for support. They won't need more than that back home anyway." Clara nodded quickly, agreeing to everything he said as she leaned in for a kiss. "Wait," Mark said, pushing her back. "With all those people around, I forgot to ask you something. Why is the house so empty? There's no furniture or electronics." Not even a bit fazed, Clara pulled him close, her voice syrupy. "It's all because of that greasy uncle. I confronted him, and he had a tantrum and took half the stuff. But it was all junk anyway. What's important is that we can finally be together for real soon. And hey, when we get married, we can redecorate the whole place according to your tastes. Wouldn't that be nice?" Clara was still a pro at sweet-talking, just like when she convinced me to pay for all the renovations after we first bought the house. But Mark wasn't as gullible as I had been. He flashed his phone in her face. "If you want my help with renovations, you need to pay up first. A luxury remodel starts at 30 grand. Send me the transfer now." Clara laughed awkwardly and pushed his phone away. "We've got plenty of time for that. Let's focus on us before they get back." The two of them then made their way to the master bedroom, and I recorded everything that followed. I saved the video trying not to gag. The thought of my father-in-law and that ungrateful brat's future made me laugh out loud. My leather orders started getting fantastic feedback, and soon more clients were booking custom pieces. Some even suggested I try making different styles, like motorcycle bags and vintage postman bags, to expand my online presence. It felt like I had discovered a whole new world. I started filming my crafting process and learning how to edit videos. My life found a new, hopeful routine. Every morning started with an hour-long workout, followed by a light, nutritious breakfast. Then, it was work time, recording my process on my phone. After dinner, I would relax in bed, editing and posting the videos. My social media accounts weren't exploding, but the steady stream of orders brought me a quiet joy. Things were finally looking up. I no longer had to worry about running out of cash or going hungry. My lawyer drafted the divorce papers. I printed out all the evidence of Clara's affair, put on a decent coat, and headed back to our old place. Opening the door, I was hit by a foul stench. The place, once tidy under my care, was now screamingly filthy. It was no surprise. Clara had started bringing Mark over every day. My father-in-law had kept up the pretense of cleaning for about a week before reverting to his true lazy self. He started trying to boss Mark around, but Mark wasn't having any of it. He made excuses about helping his pregnant ex-girlfriend, Sarah, who he said needed his care, and then bailed, never coming back. That left them to their own laziness. They let laundry pile up, took out the trash only every few days, and the floor hadn't seen a mop since Mark left. The chaos meant Maya couldn't find her Legos or her tablet, but she probably just figured it was her own mess. My father-in-law now stayed in bed until noon, causing Maya to be consistently late for school. Cooking was out of the question. Their mealtime routine was waiting for takeout to arrive. Maya was delighted. No early mornings, junk food galore, no one enforcing study rules, and no scolding for her bad habits. Clara had briefly considered hiring a maid, but dropped the idea when she saw the rates, settling on her dad, just making do. When I walked in, all three of them glared at me. My father-in-law opened with his usual sarcasm. "I thought you died out there. What a disappointment." I snapped back. "They say pests like you live forever. You'll probably outlive us all." "Why are you being such a jackass the minute you walk in?" Clara shrieked, grabbing a slipper and preparing to charge at me. I calmly pulled out a small can of pepper spray. She immediately backed off. Only then did I speak. "Trying to talk to animals like you is pointless. You wouldn't understand human language anyway. But if you really want to chat, let's indulge." I threw a folder onto the coffee table. "This is the divorce agreement. Clara, I'm only asking for 90% of your savings. The house can stay with you since it was your premarital asset." Hearing me mention money, my father-in-law clutched his chest, gasping for breath. "You gold digger! My daughter's earnings aren't yours to take. Have you no shame? My daughter took care of you for 8 years, gave you this big house, and never asked you for a dime because she's kind. Having you as a son-in-law is the worst luck imaginable," Clara finally snapped. "What's your problem, Leo? I'm the one carrying this family. This has nothing to do with you. And you dare talk to me about divorce and money?" I chuckled and slammed the printed proof of her affair right into her chest. "You've always been blind to the efforts of others. I worked my ass off in this home, but you never saw it. But you can see these photos, right? If you still can't, I don't mind sending copies to everyone at your company. By the way, remember when you got in trouble for that shabby outfit while hosting that event? Your boss wasn't happy. And later you kept taking personal calls from your dad and the school during work hours, which led to a public reprimand. Let me guess, if your boss sees this, would you and Mark both get fired?" Clara looked over each page, her face growing darker and darker. "Leo, you set me up." Her dad snatched the papers from her hand and started tearing them into pieces. "Sweetie, look! I tore it all up! Don't be afraid of this man!" "It's cool," I shrugged. "I can print 1,000 more copies. 10,000 even. Take your time tearing them up." "You..." Her dad feigned a heart attack, clutching his chest. "If something happens to me, it's all on you. You'll be responsible." "Fine," I replied casually. "When you die, I'll make sure to toss your ashes into a stinky ditch." I then turned back to Clara. "So, as soon as you sign, you can live happily ever after with your true love. Isn't that great?" She scoffed through her nose. "Do you think I'll be scared by these pathetic threats? I could easily find another job. Cheating is no big deal for women these days." I smiled slyly and showed her the video on my phone of her and Mark. "What if everyone finds out you're basically frigid and just lie there like a dead fish? Is that still no problem for you?" Clara gritted her teeth. "This is illegal. Recording me is illegal." "I'll just censor the faces and send it to all your friends and family. No one will ever be able to guess it's you in the video, right? It would just be a shame for some people who won't ever be able to walk with their heads held high again." Clara was losing it. She clawed at her hair, kicking and hitting the furniture around her in a wild, powerless rage. Her dad and Maya, who had been hiding in the back, were shocked into silence. I simply waited. Finally, to protect the last shred of her dignity, Clara gave in. She made me sign an agreement promising to destroy all the evidence of her cheating before she would sign the divorce papers. Just as she picked up the pen, her father reacted. "Wait, you can divorce, but our precious granddaughter has to come with us." Maya immediately threw herself on the floor and started wailing. "I don't want to stay with this greasy old man. I want to be with Mom and Grandpa. I want to be with Mark." For the first time, I looked at Maya directly. "Don't worry," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "I never planned on fighting for custody of you anyway, because you're not worth it." She was dumbfounded, standing there with her mouth agape. The daughter I had raised with all my heart and soul. No matter how her life turned out from that moment on, it would have nothing to do with me. After some relentless urging from me, Clara finally signed the papers. In that moment, I felt lighter than I had in years. When good luck arrives, you can feel it in the air. Unbelievably, when I got back to my apartment, my business had exploded. My phone was blowing up with notifications. It turned out that a popular motorcycle enthusiast had shared a video featuring a custom jacket I had made, and the video had gone viral. A flood of people found my online shop through the video. Inquiries surged, and my order book was filled for the rest of the year. I adjusted my work schedule. My mornings were dedicated to my non-negotiable workout, followed by video editing. From noon until night, I would live-stream myself crafting leather goods. Many viewers commented that watching my hands work was incredibly stress-relieving, and they even started sending virtual gifts. I also started linking to some of the handy crafting tools I personally used, and the affiliate income from that alone soon became more profitable than Clara's entire salary. A month later, it was time to finalize the divorce with Clara at the registrar's office. I wore a perfectly tailored suit that highlighted my new, fit physique. I styled my hair back, slipped on my best leather shoes, and radiated a confidence I hadn't felt in a decade. Clara showed up with Sarah, Mark's pregnant ex-girlfriend, with a smug-looking Maya tagging along. They both froze when they saw me. Maya whispered in amazement, "Is that the greasy old man? Why does he look so good?" A flash of jealousy crossed Clara's eyes before she spat. "He must have found a sugar mommy. He's a total sleaze, not a parent at all." She wrenched away from Sarah and accused me loudly. "Is that true, Leo? Did you sell your body for money? Haven't I treated you well all these years, keeping you from the wind and rain at home without you ever needing to work, and you betrayed me? Tell me, when did this start?" I slapped her hard across the face, leaving a red handprint on her cheek. "You love to judge others by your own pathetic standards, don't you? Not everyone cheats, Clara. You tossed me pocket change every month to lock me inside with endless chores, thinking that's all I deserved. But I'm better than that. I was always better than that. Why should I be just a housekeeper? Today, if you and your fiancé dare to slander my name again, you will regret it deeply. Also, let's hurry up with these papers. We wouldn't want to delay your new baby's birth registration, would we?" Clara stood there in disbelief, shocked that I was so completely and utterly done with her. Finally, pushed by a nervous-looking Sarah, she went with me to get the divorce certificate. Once I had the official document in my hand, I ignored their disgusting little group and, with confidence in my stride, strutted away in my leather shoes without a single backward glance. I used the money from the asset settlement to buy myself a small house. The previous owner was an artist who was moving abroad and selling it cheap. I loved the decor and moved right in. Later, I adopted a playful and clingy little orange cat to keep me company. I spent the next 6 months relearning how to love myself. I took fitness classes and even started a skincare routine. Honestly, I felt healthier and happier than I did even before I got married. Then one day, a phone call shattered my peaceful existence. It was Maya. She was crying, saying she missed me and wanted to see me. I was planning on taking my cat to the pet store for a bath, so we agreed to meet at a nearby KFC. I didn't expect her to show up with my ex-father-in-law. They didn't recognize me at first. It wasn't until I sat down at their table with the cat carrier that Maya's eyes widened in surprise. "All right, what's up?" I asked, cutting straight to the chase. Maya couldn't meet my eyes. My ex-father-in-law looked like he was about to explode. "You've really done a great job as a dad, haven't you?" he sneered. "Ignoring your own daughter but dressing up like this. Who are you trying to impress? And spending money on a fancy bag for this animal? Do you treat your own parents this well?" This old man really knew how to spit venom. Was he angry because he couldn't spend my money anymore? "I'm divorced from Clara," I told him calmly. "I pay the monthly child support on time. How I spend my own money is none of your business. And my parents have passed away. If you're curious about how I treated them, you can go ask them yourself." That shut him up. I turned my attention back to Maya. "So, if there's nothing else, I'm leaving." Maya suddenly stood up and grabbed my sleeve. I waited quietly for her to speak. Her face turned red, and just as I was about to lose my patience, she mumbled, "Mark, he wants to send me and Grandpa back to the countryside. He says the house is too crowded." Her voice got softer, and it sounded like she was about to cry. "Oh," I replied. "Then you should go. 6 people in one house does sound crowded. Didn't you and Grandpa really like Mark? I'm sure you'll be happy to agree to his request." My reaction was definitely not what she expected. She looked shocked. My ex-father-in-law couldn't stay still any longer. "Even a tiger won't eat its own cubs. You're a cold-hearted father letting your own daughter be sent to the countryside." He was a master of double standards, always trying to shift the blame onto me. The truth was, he was just scared of being sent away himself and having to take care of the pampered little angel alone. I crossed my arms and smiled at him. "I'm divorced, not dead. Clara has custody. Why aren't you asking her for help?" "Clara never told you she had fertility issues before, did she? It was me who went around seeking treatments, trying IVF multiple times before she finally got pregnant with Maya. You should take Maya and go talk to Clara. I'm sure she'll soften up." The old man's face fell. "You're saying my granddaughter is from IVF?" "Nope," I said, giving Maya a disdainful look. "I went through all that trouble for her. If I knew she'd turn out like this, I'd rather have cooked a pork chop." Maya's face flashed red and white, but the old man was already too shocked to argue. He must have realized something. He cursed under his breath, grabbed Maya's arm, and dragged her away. Back when I was gathering evidence of their affair, I had accidentally seen Sarah, Mark's supposed ex, with another young man at a hotel. I even saw him go with her for a prenatal checkup. The next time I saw any of them, it was on a video trending on a local news site. The ex-father-in-law, driven by suspicion, had secretly done a paternity test on Clara and Mark's new baby. He found out the child wasn't Mark's. In a rage, Clara tried to harm the baby. Sarah fought back and got a deep cut on her face. When the baby's real father found out about the drama, he bolted. Sarah, furious and abandoned, reported Clara to the authorities for her past affairs and embezzlement at her company. Clara was banned from the industry. Most of her assets had already been split with me in the divorce. Now, she had to pay hefty compensation and was facing jail time. She even had to mortgage the house. The old man, reluctant to part with his granddaughter but having no other choice, took Maya with him back to the countryside without complaint. I increased the monthly support payment by another $1,500 as my final token of goodwill to them. From then on, we would go our separate ways.